Hey everybody, happy Tuesday from Brasilia. Here's my first vlog in my new apartment here in Brasilia. I did do the 33-hour bus ride. It ended up being 33 and a half, so I think that's a pretty good job on their part of estimating how long the actual trip would be. Overall, it was very nice, very relaxing. I'm glad that I did it. And this vlog, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that trip was like. So the bus trip was 33 and a half hours long. If you look right down below this video blog, you'll see a Google map outline of where we went through on the trip. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what that was like. The very first part of the trip was, and I'd probably say the very last part of the trip were my favorite parts, mostly because the bus was almost completely empty both times. When we first got on in Porto Alegre, it was about me and 5 other people at 9 in the morning, and we had the whole bus to ourselves. So I could really spread out, relax, and enjoy it. And the very first part, the first 7 hours of the trip, I think were the most beautiful. It had the most gorgeous landscape. It kind of resembled Southern California near Riverside, with kind of the shape of the land, a lot of it being very flat, but with big mountains on the sides. Kind of like the drive between, I'd say, maybe Beaumont and Palm Springs, more so. But instead of being bare and brown like California, it looked actually very lush and green, almost like Minnesota, but even greener. It even had a lot of tropical plants like palm trees, but most of it just kind of looked like your basic green trees. Not pine trees, can't remember what they're called. They're not deciduous. Coniferous? Mostly coniferous trees. I think I'm getting those right. But you did see your palm trees once in a while, and you did see a few like pine trees, deciduous, in the way. But just overall very green, very full of water, a lot of lakes, a lot of rivers going through it. So it was absolutely gorgeous. And I wanted to take some nice pictures of my trip to show you on the blog, but after I took 4 pictures, my camera just shut off and stopped working completely. So even though at one point I bought batteries, it didn't work the rest of the trip until about an hour before I got here. So I didn't really get too many pictures of my trip, unfortunately. But I did post one of them. It's nowhere near even how beautiful. It's not really that good of a picture. It's kind of pretty. But it doesn't compare in the beauty of everything that I saw. And because I wanted to give you something, if you look down below the map, even there's one picture from my journey. Yeah, so the first very part of the trip was very beautiful and very relaxing because I could spread out. And I didn't even really pay attention to where the bus was going between Porto Alegre and Brasilia. So the very first stop, which I wasn't expecting, was back at Florianopolis, where I actually started my trip to Brazil. So that was kind of exciting just to see the town one quick time, the pretty bridge there, very brief stop. Once we got to Florianopolis, the bus filled up completely, so I had to give up my precious space, which was a little bit sad. And it was like that for almost the rest of the trip. So on the way we went from Florianopolis to a city called Curitiba, but I think the pronunciation is so completely different in Portuguese because the T, they get kind of a ch sound to it, so I have no clue how to even pronounce it. Huge city in Brazil. We also, I think, stopped in Sao Paulo, which is the biggest city in Brazil, but I think I was sleeping for that part during the end of the night. Once we got further into the trip, in more of the countryside, or we started to go inland, there was just so much farmland that we saw. And I remember reading about in school and hearing about the stuff, how Brazilian rainforests are being cut down. And this was something I could actually kind of see a little bit. Not necessarily the rainforest part of it, because I didn't get really that deep into the countryside or even into the north that much. But I really could see this huge difference between farmland, and then there would just be a wall, and then it would be forest. And then that forest would end at another wall at some point, and then there would be farms. So the change that I noticed is quite drastic from them being cut down. Once we got at about 8 in the morning, the bus emptied off again to about 5 or 6 people, and for the next 10 hours of the trip, I had my own 2 seats to myself, could spread out and relax, and it was great. I did a lot of reading on the trip. I used my laptop, did some writing, did some translating of some books that I got that are in Portuguese with my little pocket dictionary, and I also thought up some future blogs that I might give you in the future. So then eventually, anyway, the trip ended around 6:30 when pulled into the bus station here, and yeah, that was about it. I got off, I went outside, looked for a taxi, and tried to explain how where I wanted to go. I just basically gave him a sheet of paper of my address. So then I ended up at my apartment around 7 o'clock, and my adventure in Brasilia starts. But I will save that for another blog that I'll post tonight to give you my first thoughts and first experiences on Brasilia. Okay, until next time, talk to you later. Bye-bye.